Ha! Hey everyone, Hassan here. Welcome to the world of Ha. Today, I'm here to talk to you about Power Rangers HyperForce. So what is Power Rangers HyperForce? Well, let me explain. Power Rangers HyperForce is a tabletop RPG game developed as a collaboration between HyperRPG and Saban brand. So this is an official thing. It streams live on twitch.tv/hyperrpg every Tuesday night from 9 p.m. Eastern to midnight. It's 3 hours live every week. And if you're wondering what the heck I just said, don't worry, you're exactly like I was when this whole thing started. Even the words tabletop RPG went completely over my head. Well, don't worry, that's what this video is here to explain what it's all about. That's what I want to do for you guys. The main thing that I want to get across is Power Rangers HyperForce, in my opinion, is the best Power Rangers story to ever happen in a long time. It is so incredible, and we're going to talk about why. But one thing I want to mention is it is a direct sequel to Power Rangers Time Force, which is widely considered to be one of the best seasons of Power Rangers. If that isn't reason enough to check it out, I don't know what is. So let's talk story. Power Rangers HyperForce starts in the year 3016, and all of the Rangers are actually Time Force cadets. Their mentor is none other than Jen Scott's the pink Time Force Power Ranger herself. And so the adventures in Power Rangers HyperForce take this team through time, and they get to experience a whole bunch of different Power Rangers eras. So they go to Angel Grove, they go to Corinth from Power Rangers RPM, they go all over the timeline, and it's super cool getting to see them plop into different moments of Power Rangers history. Their goal is to face off against the Alliance of Evil. And the Alliance of Evil is basically going through time and plucking up villains from various Power Rangers eras to form an Alliance of Evil, and basically they have a big motive that they're trying to do. We know a little bit about it, but I don't want to spoil it for people that haven't been watching. It's definitely pretty cool, and it ties into Power Rangers history, which is really neat. But the premise of the show is essentially they're traveling through time, exploring different areas from Power Rangers history, and getting to delve into some really, really cool stuff. So who are the Rangers? Well, we have the Red Ranger, Marv, who's played by Peter Sodarso, which is, if you don't know, Preston, the Ninja Steel Blue Ranger. So he actually gets to play a different character on Power Rangers HyperForce, this time playing the leader of the team, which is really cool. We also have Andre Meadows, who you may know as Black Nerd Comedy, who has a YouTube channel, really cool guy, really funny as well, and he gets to play Eddie, the Blue Ranger. And we have a Power Rangers classic, Paul Schreier, who played Bulk way back when, but this time he's playing Jack, who is the yellow HyperForce Power Ranger. Totally different character, he's much more serious, but it's really cool having Paul Schreier on the team. Then we have Christina V, who plays Vesper, the Black Ranger, and she is so cool on the show. Her character goes through some really cool story arcs, and she can play really cool serious moments and funny moments, and it's awesome to see her on the show. Last but not least, we have Megan Camarena, who plays Chloe, the HyperForce Pink Ranger, who brings so much fun energy to the show. It's so cool to see what Chloe gets herself into in Power Rangers HyperForce. It's so much fun. And then, of course, outside of the Power Rangers HyperForce team, we have Malika Lim, who is the Game Master. And the Game Master is basically the one that is controlling what happens in the show and basically is moving things forward and presenting all the scenarios for the team to go through. I'll talk about that more later, but Malika's really cool because she actually gets to play a lot of the supporting characters. So she gets to play Alpha 55, for example. Yes, there is an Alpha 55, and she also gets to play all the other, side characters that the Power Rangers get to interact with, which is really neat. And on top of that, they also have a lot of special guests. So every now and then they'll bring in a guest to join the team for a show. For example, in the very first episode, I mentioned that the HyperForce team's mentor was Jen Scott, the Pink Time Force Ranger. Well, guess what? They brought back Aaron Cahill to reprise the role. So that was super cool seeing Aaron back as the Pink Ranger. We've also had Karen Ashley, Aisha, right? Yellow Mighty Morphin Ranger. We've had Mike Jin, right? Who's Boom, or not Boom. He always says Boom, but he's Jem, the RPM Gold Ranger, and some others as well. I don't want to spoil too much if you haven't watched the show, but just to give you an idea, all the way from Mighty Morphin and RPM, whole bunch of different seasons you get to experience on the show, which is really, really cool. And some non-Ranger special guests as well. Even a special holiday episode featuring Santa Claus. So you never know what's going to happen on Power Rangers HyperForce. All right, I know you guys want to know the main question, right? How does it even work? Well, I'm going to try and explain it to you the best that I can. I'm not an expert by any means, but I've gotten to come to an understanding of the basics of the show. Hyper RPG actually has created a video talking about the rules of the show, and I will play that at the end of this video, but it is a little technical, so I want to kind of give you the setting a little bit and explain it in more detail. So basically, the way that it works is all of the cast are sitting there in chairs, and the game master is essentially presenting the story, basically being the narrator and describing the setting and telling you what's happening in the show. And for example, the game master may say, so you happen to walk up to a library. And then she just like lets it loose, and the cast members get to decide what to do. Are they gonna walk into the library? Are they gonna leave? Are they gonna, like, what are they gonna do? They have control to move the story in different directions. So the game master, Malika, she actually has an outline planned. So she knows that there's general things in this episode that they have to cover. How it's going to happen? Who knows, right? And there's certain things that may happen a little differently. So she knows, for example, in this episode, the Power Rangers need to get a Zord. However they get it, who knows? That's the fun thing about it being an RPG, is it's live, it's improv, and it makes it really exciting and fun, even for the people playing the game, because they don't know what's going to happen. The actual Ranger actors know some background about their characters and that sort of thing, but they don't know what's going to happen in the next episode, so it's all a surprise for everybody, and they're experiencing it as it goes on. And so the way that it works is they'll just start acting out scenes and just basically talking to each other and improving. And every now and then they'll say, you know what, I'm going to try and talk to this person and do this or that. And if the game master decides, the game master can leave it up to the fate of some dice. And so a lot of times you'll see them refer to a D6. And what a D6 is it's basically one dice. And it is a dice that has 6 sides to it, so 1 through 6 basically. So I didn't even know that was a term, but D6 is what that is. And so she will say, roll the dice, and they'll roll it, and you know, maybe they'll get a 2 or a 3 or a 6 or whatever it is, and the game master herself will roll the dice. Or will say, this is a level 3 challenge, for example. And so if they happen to roll that number or above, which sometimes they tell you what it is. Sometimes she'll say this is a level 3, or sometimes she won't tell you at all. You'll just have to she's keeping track in her head. And so depending on what they roll, the game master will then decide what happens in the story. Maybe they wanted to come up with some plan, and they wanted to talk to somebody, and so they roll a high number, and it's successful. So then they're successful, and they can go up to the person and talk to them, and maybe they'll give them valuable information, right? But what if they roll like a 1, a really low number, and they're not successful? Well, then maybe the game master will be tricky and say, oh, it looks like that person doesn't want to talk to you, or I don't know. They'll come up with some scenario, and so the better things that you roll, the better numbers that you get, the higher the numbers, the more favorable things will happen in the show. So it's really up to fate. Things could turn out great, things could turn out bad, and it really makes it really interesting. Now that's at a base level. You can apply that to combat as well. So for example, you come across a group of putties, right? So you roll high numbers, the chances are that whatever attacks that you want to do are going to succeed. You roll low numbers, they might fail. So it's all a game of chance. And the way that you do attacks is literally, the HyperForce Rangers will be like, all right, I want to jump up and punch them right here, and then do a little kick, and they can basically come up with whatever scenarios they want. And based on how crazy they get with it, the game master can basically, in their head, be like, okay, that's a little minor thing, so we'll make it easier. Or they're doing a crazy combo, so they gotta roll something really high to do that. So it's all kind of behind the scenes, and we don't fully see it, but you get the general idea that the higher numbers they roll, the better chance of success. And you'll basically know if they succeed, because if they try and punch the monster and they actually do, well, then they succeeded. And if they punch and miss, well, then they failed. So you kind of get the idea, and it sort of naturally unfolds and makes it really interesting. What's also really cool is that as they continue to play, the dice can sort of evolve in a way. When they morph, then they get to roll 2 dice. You know, when they're in the Megazords, they get to roll even more dice. So as they get more power, they get to roll even more dice, making, you know, their attacks and everything stronger. But then again, same thing applies to the villains as well. As the monsters get bigger and so on, or if they fight a putty versus like a general, right? It's going to be harder to beat the general. So it gets a little tricky with the way that things go. So it's really a game of chance. But also there's energy involved, and the Rangers need energy to even be able to morph and be able to do certain things. So energy they can get by doing things in the game. So maybe they do some teamwork, and the game master says, okay, for doing teamwork you'll get some energy. But also, if you watch live, you can actually participate and donate some money to give supers, ultras, and megas. And so those things will give boosts to the Rangers. So for example, you donate, I think it's like $10 or something, and you can give a super to the team. And if they use a super, they get to add +2 to one of their dice rolls. So if they're really facing off against a tough enemy, that super can really make a big difference. So it really helps to play live and participate, and it's a lot of fun. So that's kind of the basic game rules of how things unfold. But it's a lot more complex than that. But essentially, it's really up to the dice. And the more dice they roll, the higher numbers they roll, the better chance they have at a positive outcome. If this still hasn't convinced you or given you an idea of what to expect from Power Rangers HyperForce, let me give you a couple of clips from the show. Power Rangers HyperForce will take you through a full range of emotions. It will make you cry at some scenes, like this one scene that Chloe did.
When they told me that you guys died, I feel like a part of me died when you guys became a memory. And I've been looking for you everywhere. It's the reason why I became a Time Force cadet. I'm a Power Ranger now. You'd be real proud. I've looked for you in Angel Grove, the North Pole. I think the Time Force report was true, though. I know you guys died, but a part of me doesn't want to believe that.
I also find myself constantly laughing at the amazing ideas that they come up with and all the crazy scenarios that happen. I mean, there's truly some great comedic moments in the show.
High five, and I ask, hey, Alpha, I've been meaning to ask you, are you some kind of Spanish?
Some kind of Spanish.
I mean, because you say ay, ay, ay a lot. And I was just wondering if maybe you were from Spain.
I was created by the Time Force Master!
We all jump out of the ship.
Yeah.
Are you some kind of Spanish? I'm so done.
Power Rangers HyperForce also has real character development. There are such great character moments in the show, and it's absolutely incredible. Like, here's this one character moment between Eddie and Vesper from the Power Rangers HyperForce team.
So, I know that, of course, we're on Ranger business right now.
Mm-hmm.
But because you've been such a good friend and you're helping me get to open up to people and to really live my life the way a normal person should, I was wondering if, you know, just one time, I mean, would you maybe, if you want to, you don't have to say yes, possibly maybe take me out on one date after this is done, after we beat the Alliance, after we have figured out what's going on here in the future, just, you know, for experience.
You're
not really plugging my ears.
Me neither.
You know,
I hope they don't know.
given the circumstances of
possible end of the world and everything.
Say yes, Eddie.
I would totally love to
Yes.
do that.
That's
Yeah,
my man.
For like you said, for your research.
No,
I'll give you the full experience.
No.
Friend zone, don't.
Just say yes.
And then Power Rangers HyperForce is really good about taking those character moments and twisting them and taking you and putting you on the edge of your seat in real big dramatic moments. Like Eddie and Vesper, right? You saw that scene. Well, look how crazy it turns out.
You know what would be charming is, why don't you take out your little boyfriend here?
How are you able to control her?
And then you suddenly feel overcome with the urge to, yes, now pick up your Cerberus axe, but you can't control yourself, and you're aiming it right for your friend,
Whoa!
Eddie.
So, there's nothing else I can do, so I can't fight my impulses. I'm kind of scared, but at the same time, the overwhelming need to attack Eddie kind of takes over me. So, I'm gonna super ultra swing my Cerberus axe right into his side.
God! Whoa!
Yeah.
That's all that I'm going to show you from Power Rangers HyperForce because I don't want to spoil any more. You should definitely check it out. If you can watch it live on twitch.tv/hyperrpg every Tuesday night from 9 p.m. Eastern to midnight, 3 hours live. I know it's a big time commitment, but it is so much fun watching live, going in the Twitch chat room, posting your thoughts, or going on Twitter, #HyperForce. A lot of the cast members and everybody on HyperRPG, they read the tweets, they read the chat, they participate and see what's going on. So it's very interactive and so much fun. I'm always watching live and I love it so much. If you can't watch it live, and I understand it is a commitment, it is available to watch in a variety of ways. If you subscribe on Twitch to HyperRPG, you can actually watch it video on demand right after it is finished airing. So anytime after it's done live, you can go and watch it again. If you have not subscribed, but I do encourage you to subscribe and support HyperRPG, but if you have not, it will be available on their YouTube channel 1 week later. So if there's an episode on Tuesday, the following Tuesday morning, they'll put it up on their YouTube channel to watch. So you do get to watch it for free, you'll just have to wait a week. It's also available as a podcast, so you can go on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts and search Power Rangers HyperForce and listen to it there. It works. I've listened to it a little bit. In my opinion, it's not the same as watching it live and seeing it happen, but if you really are in a time crunch and you have to get through things in a certain week, it can definitely come in handy in a pinch, so definitely check that out. But it is so much fun to watch live, and I highly encourage that you check it out. So with that being said, that is Power Rangers HyperForce. If you have any questions at all, please post them in the comment section below, and I'd be happy to help answer them for you. I highly, highly recommend checking out. It is absolutely fantastic, and yeah, it's so much fun. And definitely tweet along, #HyperForce. So I'd love to see your thoughts on Twitter also. I'm going to end this video by showing you the rules video that has been put together by HyperRPG themselves. So if you want some more details on the technical aspects of the rules of the game, check that out. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later.
Hi, I'm Malika Lim. I'm the Game Master on Power Rangers HyperForce. I'm also the game designer for the Power Rangers RPG system that we use weekly on our live stream. I've been getting a lot of questions to break down how our RPG works, so here we go! Power Rangers HyperForce is a tabletop RPG, and it's all based off of these guys. D6s, regular 6-sided dice. Now, for everything that you do, you roll 1d6. Unless you're a Morph Power Ranger, then you roll 2d6. And then, as you get stronger and you Zord up, you roll 3d6. Finally, when you all go inside your Megazord, you roll a collective 6d6. So that's basically how it goes. Let's break it down further and let me elaborate. At the heart of our system is something we call energy. You can think of it as the power that powers our Power Rangers. As unmorphed heroes, all our players roll 1d6 for all actions, whether it be combat related, like kicking a putty in the butt, or non-combat related, like trying to deceive an NPC. As the players succeed on their actions and just do heroic and ranger-like things, points of energy are awarded by the Game Master, aka me, or HyperForce fans through our Twitch extension. These energy points are tracked right on the player's dice. And once a player earns a full d6 of energy, well, it's morphin' time. And once the players are morphed, they now roll 2d6 for everything. That's 2d6 on the attack roll and 2d6 for the damage roll. Because when you're morphed, you're stronger, faster, and more charismatic. Once you're morphed, you'll still be collecting your energy for your epic wins and your heroic actions. Players continue to track their energy points on their d6s because that's how they get into their Zords. Once the players have earned a minimum of 3 d6s of energy, they can now call down their Zords and use 3 d6s for both their attack and damage rolls. That's the power of being a Power Ranger for ya. Teamwork! Now, speaking of Rangerly, one of the most Ranger-like things you can do is teamwork. And I designed this system to encourage it. This is the way a team attack would go down. Step 1, on your turn, talk to your team member about how it would go down and describe it to the GM. There's no limit to how many team members can participate on a team roll. Step 2, roll against the GM. If you both succeed, you get the benefit of the combined damage of both teammates on just one player turn. But if either of you fail your attack roll, that's the end of your turn. But don't worry, Ranger, you can always try again on the next turn. Megazord! Now let's talk about the most epic teamwork the Power Rangers are known to do. That is forming the Megazord! Once all players are in their Zord, they can agree as a team to form the Megazord. This plays out a little differently than a teamwork attack. For both the attack roll and the damage roll, each Ranger rolls 1d6 except for the Ranger who is piloting the heart of the Megazord. This Ranger gets to roll 2d6. This means each roll of the Megazord is the combined sum of 6d6! Monsters. Great villains make great heroes. Now, just like the Rangers who roll more and more d6 when they morph, Zord up, form up the Megazord, I, as the GM, also get to roll more and more d6 as I challenge the Rangers. I only roll 1d6 for weak monsters like putties and grinders, but I roll 3 or more d6 for the monster of the week and 4 or more for the villain general or a weaker monster that has now just gotten really, really big. Extras. Now that's the basics for the Power Rangers RPG system. There's a few things I didn't explain, like modifiers for our different Rangers, Popcorn Initiative, or the card-based special weapons and attacks that trade energy for a set damage or other bonuses. So you'll just have to tune in to HyperForce on Tuesdays from 6 to 9 Pacific Time to see those things in action. Thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe for more Power Rangers HyperForce and tabletop RPG content.
HyperForce!